Hi there, my name is Katie Saint. I'm a lead therapist through Fox Valley Autism, and this training video is number 6 in the Line Therapist Natural Environment Teaching Training Series. This topic is on self-help. This is a super important topic. We want to get our kids as independent as possible in all of their self-care and daily living skills so that they can be independent adults. And so, in order to do that, it's really important that we're providing our kids with opportunities to practice it in functional ways. So, a small example of that is if we want our child to learn how to tie his shoes, we maybe go outside 2 or 3 times a therapy shift so he has a functional reason to take his shoes on and off and tie them several times in a functional way. We try to make those activities fun and motivating, and then we're going to give them a lot of practice. So, one temptation with self help skills is to do it for them because it's typically faster. So, many mornings when I'm getting my children ready for school or in a hurry, perhaps the kids dragged their feet and got ready slow. So, we're running out of time. So, I'm pressed with the decision to either do it for them and get it done quickly or let them do it themselves and potentially be late for school. So when these kind of situations happen, this is why we often give in and do things for children that they should be doing themselves. So it's understandable that sometimes you just have to get to school on time, so you're not going to have that opportunity. So during therapy, we need to be intentional as possible about planning for this, giving ourselves extra time so we can allow the children to have that practice. It's really important that we let the child work through putting on their clothes and their jackets and brushing their teeth and all of those basic important life skills. So, one thing to be really aware of with all self help skills is your prompting level. So, there's different types of prompt levels. There's hand over hand prompting, where we're basically physically helping the child do it. This is if the child doesn't have the skill at all, and we're trying to get them comfortable with the motor movements of the skill. So that's why we're not just doing it for them. We're taking their hands and we're having them do it with us. But when we do that, we can then start fading back our prompts. So this method is called the most to least prompting. And what that means is we start with the most amount of prompting. But then as the child doesn't need that support anymore, we're fading back. And it's really important we're hypersensitive to fading back because if we're not, the child can become prompt dependent. And so, an example of this is I've been making oatmeal for my son for his whole life. And one weekend I was away for a conference, and when I came home, I learned he made his own oatmeal. And it was because I wasn't there to make it for him. And this whole time he had the skill and I just didn't know it because I've always been doing it for him. So he was prompt dependent on me, not because he didn't have the skill, but because I was always willing to do it for him. So after I learned this, I quit making his oatmeal and he started making it himself, which is great because kids having more independence prepares them for adulthood. The more they can do on their own, the more likely they are to be successful as an adult. Sometimes this can be hard for parents because it feels good to help your child, and that's part of your purpose as a parent to do things for them. But we have to remember that helping our children be independent increases their likelihood of success. So, another type of prompting is least to most prompting. So, now this is when the child already has the skill and maybe just needs some reminders. So, we're going to kind of let them do it, be watching maybe, and then just waiting to see if they need help. And then if they do, we're going to give them the least amount of help possible to try and help them maintain that independence. So again, this is if the child already has the skill established and just needs a little bit of support. Another type of prompting is called graduated prompting, and this is where you're hyper vigilantly prompting the child. Like your hands are on top of their hands and you're right there, but you're watching so closely that if they're doing it right, you're instantly backing off. But before you give them the opportunity to do it wrong or make an error, you're right back on them. So you're just watching so closely that your on and off is needed. So this is a good way to teach toothbrushing or different skills like that, where they might vary in their ability to do it correctly. So prompting is the biggest part of independent skills. Because of that prompt dependence, we need to fade that out as quickly as we can so they don't get dependent on it and it doesn't slow down their progress. So one thing we've learned with kids with autism or kids in general is that verbal prompts are easier to get dependence on than gesture or physical prompts. So one way we fade out prompts is by putting up visuals such as signs or pictures, things like that to help remind the client of what they are supposed to do. So this is a way we can fade out our prompts as well. So again, to review, prompts are a big part of teaching independent living skills, but more than prompts is simply the power of repetition. We need the opportunity to practice these skills. So you need to come up with reasons to practice these skills as often as possible so they can gain their independence.